I think based on your tenure in this industry, it seems like, but please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like in the beginning, there was so much of this studied around, especially athletes, really getting them to get to the next level. And then I would say over the last 30 years, maybe.
It was athletes and it was artists. And the fault lies with both myself and me at Csikszentmihalyi. We're probably the two great popularizers of flow ideas. And Mike, Csikszentmihalyi, started out, he was studying rock climbers in his initial study group, and dancers and artists. And so that got into the literature. And then I made it worse because I wrote a ton about athletes and flow. And when we heard about it the most, it was also like Jimmy Johnson in the 90s co-opted Csikszentmihalyi's idea to bring the Dallas Cowboys a couple of Super Bowl victories and got a lot of attention. A couple other things happened in sports. So it got the attention. But you're absolutely right. In fact, if you go back to the early research on flow, who gets the most flow? In the early research, there were two things that showed up. One, the most common flow state on earth is reading, period. So reading is the most common flow state on earth. And let me take it a second one, because this is even crazier.
Is it going to the bathroom?
No, but a good flow example. People say, like, I meet people at airports, they're like, oh yeah, I'm the executive director of the Flow Research Collective. We're obviously an organization of plumbers. So, okay, bad joke aside, the second most common flow state on earth, and this is early research, I don't know if it's still true. So there's two versions of flow. There's individual flow, me in a flow state, you in a flow state, or there's group flow. It's a shared collective version of a flow state. It could be interpersonal flow, two people lost in a great conversation, group flow, team flow, fourth quarter comeback in basketball or football, or a great rock concert, the band just totally comes together, or communitas. This is flow at scale. It's huge. When you go to a rock concert and everybody merges with the music and you're all clapping and sync and all that's communitas, right? It's flow at scale. So the most common, besides reading, is interpersonal flow, two middle managers in an office environment having a conversation at work. They get so sucked into the conversation that a couple hours go by. So neither of those examples, as you can imagine, involve artists or athletes. And it was so hard until we got a language around it, until we got all the neurobiology, until all this stuff came up. Was flow a mystical experience? That was the first question I looked at in my very first book on flow. I was talking to surfers and they kept saying, yeah, every time I'm in a tube, I become one with the ocean, just one with the ocean, which that just sounds like a wild ass mystical experience. And today we can talk about these things out loud. Go back to the 80s and 90s and try talking about among serious people, right? You're just going to get laughed out of the room. But Dr. Andrew Newberg, my first mentor, had just done the very first brain imaging to image Tibetan Buddhists and Franciscan nuns during ecstatic meditation when the nuns would feel one with Jesus' love and the Buddhists were one with the universe. And I called him because I saw his research. I read his research and I was like, dude, what we're seeing with the surfers in this state that I think we're calling flow, is that the same thing that's going on? And he, to his amazing credit, said, well, I don't know, but it sure sounds similar. So let's find out together. And that was my sort of gateway. It wasn't just that I was curious about this and I was working on this stuff. It was that one of the best neuroscientists in the world said, I don't know, but that's a good question. And I'll help you figure it out. And so that was sort of how all this started. So it's been a long, slow kind of process.